mysteries abound around the world, from strange lights in the night sky to ghostly apparitions passing from one realm to the next. From the great pyramids of Egypt to what lies beneath the depths of Loch Ness. From Bigfoot to Atlantis, they are all mysteries waiting to be solved. Join Laurie Phillips, Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Simmons as they search for the truth on Nite Callers Radio. Good evening and welcome to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. You've got the usual, you have a limited crew tonight. Sorry, Billy, I didn't mean to call you that. You got Graz, Lauren, and Billy here. And Lori is on the line listening. She is still recovering from several respiratory illnesses, and so she just now got her voice back and she can lose it at any time. It is May 28th, 2015. And we are really excited tonight to have Daniel Benoit from Virginia. He is also the founder of E.C.B.R.O, but I will let Graz read that bio here in a minute. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Maybe not down at Billy's place.
Or here, it's flooded still. Billy, you there? Are you broadcasting from your ark?
Billy.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, there you
hear me?
Yeah.
That's what I said. I got booted off a minute ago with the storms coming in. So, yeah, I'm getting that ark built.
Typical Thursday night. All right. Okay, then.
No, you guys have a problem east of the Rockies. I'll stay over here. It doesn't rain that much.
Lucky.
I live in a damn rainforest, and it still doesn't rain that much.
Yeah, but you live like on top of a sponge. The ground just absorbs the water there. Here, the ground doesn't know what to do with rain. It's never seen rain, so it just kind of fills up and sweeps houses away, and
We have our floods, but it's mostly South Washington that ends up with the floods, but not that much. It's pretty even around here.
Well, we are not used to it. We cannot handle it.
You can't. We can, but...
Whatever.
You live in Oklahoma, right? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I went there.
Big knobby ass time.
Started on me.
All right. Well,
you started it tonight.
You're limited, Billy. It's okay.
Always remember, you started it.
If we aren't talking about that new Victoria's Secret catalog, you just don't have anything smart to say, do you?
Hey, man, that's something to look at. Anyway.
Hello, Lori. Say hi.
Catalog.
Hello.
See, Lori is here. She can straighten everybody else up and slap them around a little bit if they get a little too crazy.
Yeah, get Billy. Get him.
Well, today I looked at Nacogdoches, Texas, and how much rain we've had since the very beginning of the year, and it's been 29 inches. That's over 2 feet. A lot of rain. And, I know that there are people out there who go, good God, Nite Callers, all they ever do is talk about weather. But it's historical because it's very rare for us to get this kind of rain, especially so widespread. We're talking about North Texas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Georgia's had flooding. It's been unbelievable the amount of rain that we've had. So anyway, it's historical, so I just wanted to say that for posterity. And I'm glad to be here. Yeah, so anyway, I'll shut up and rest this voice. Nobody wants to listen to this, so I'll talk to y'all. If y'all need me, just throw something at me and I'll jump in.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty ready just to bring our guest on. I'm pretty excited to talk to him. So, Graz, you want to roll that beautiful bean footage? Am I allowed to say that? Yeah. Is that copyrighted?
You should write that down and put it on the scene. Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio presents Daniel Benoit of E.C.B.R.O. in the continuing series of the North American Sasquatch Researcher. We bring Daniel Benoit hailing from Virginia. Daniel is the founder and CEO of E.C.B.R.O, East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. Daniel is your average outdoors guy growing up in the country, spending lots of time playing in the woods as a child, as well as hunting and fishing with his father. He has gained knowledge for this topic from his studies of wildlife research, primatology, ecology, and basic biology. He has also gained much through his time and experience spent in the field. His research has a great deal of scientific basis, and he believes in taking the time to draw your own conclusions and stand firm in your beliefs until proven otherwise. With this in mind, he founded ECBRO and the Discovery Project. The project is in a place for the evidence and to find proof of the elusive creature known as Bigfoot. He also works along with members of the ECBRO and Valley Bigfooters to research along various locations on the East Coast. Please join us as we welcome Daniel tonight to talk about his search for the truth on Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. Thank you very much.
All right, Daniel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
How about that classy intro?
That was pretty good. I liked it. Never had that done before.
Yeah, we give our guests a special treatment here on Nite Callers.
That's awesome. It sounds so professional.
That's Graz, but credit goes to Graz.
Thank you very much.
All right. It's real great to be here. And like I said, this is it's a great opportunity to participate on the show, and to discuss, the topic itself, and also to bring awareness of the group as well as what we do. So.
Right, definitely. And we, feel free to, we're not really all that limited on what we talk about on Nite Callers, so feel free to talk about your group, promote them, all of that. And we definitely want to hear about your research. Everyone here at Nite Callers has watched your videos, we've seen your photos. So if you want us to shout out to your YouTube and your website, I'm going to be putting them into the chat. But if you want to say them on air, that's completely fine. We want you to get that out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for those who may be new and not familiar with me, they can find my, research videos on my YouTube channel, ECBRO 98. A lot of my videos, a lot of it's simple stuff. It's usually showing, and a lot of it's explaining about what I do and what I find, and a lot of it's my opinion or what I believe what something may be. One thing I'll make clear right off the bat, I don't claim to be no know-it-all or expert. A lot of people classify most of us researchers that do what we do seriously, such as myself being an independent researcher along with a group. I'm not one of these mainstream scientists. I am who I am. I do what I do, and so I just want to clarify that I'm not claiming to be, like I said, one of these mainstream scientists.
Well, there's no PhD for Bigfoot.
Right, that's right. It's unclassified. Before I even say what I was going to say, there's a lot of theories out there. Of course, none of them actually been proven. But I claim and what I say, it's, what I specify the subject to be is an unclassified primate. And there's other reasons I could really get into, but some of it might be kind of hard to explain as far as why I call it an ape. But that's coming from me, and everyone else. There's many people that will agree with that. A lot of them will say otherwise. But and along with my YouTube channel, I share a lot of information, and I have a lot of blog posts on my website, which is www.ECBRO.wordpress.com, as well as I have another site that has a lot of information in it, as well as the www.ECBRO.com. They can find some information in there. I share a lot. There's actually been, in that site there's been a few others who've shared their information as well. I have several Facebook Bigfoot forums that I associate with, and of course I don't always have time to always participate in each one because, I, like many other people in the world, I have a regular job I do at work.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as that information goes, it's there, it's open, and feel free to subscribe and check it out. So,
okay. Thank you for giving all your info. So we usually start out the show with our standard question, but it gets the ball rolling. What got you into this topic? Was it a sighting? Was it experience? Did you read a book?
Well, actually, none of the above. It's actually
really?
many. Well, with many people, along with many, it all started off with a curiosity. I guess a lot of it was with, I think a lot of people could agree or associate with as far as the Patterson-Gimlin film. I guess ever since seeing that and then watching, various movies, it kind of got the mind curious, very curious. It pretty much got me paying more attention in the, when I went out in the woods. Then, little things started, I started picking up on little things I was finding, and, I guess a passion started to grow, and I had this desire to gain more information and more knowledge about the subject. And that's where social media kind of kicked in, where, I started finding others in groups, and, I picked up a lot of information from other people. There's a lot of people that pick up, and will say bluntly what they say or believe something is without having facts. And I just started taking other people's theories, and I kind of put it into my own work, where that's where I started studying, and I wanted to start finding things to see if they're true or not. And, and a lot of what people say, actually, I find some of it to be accurate, some of it not completely accurate, but yeah, it all started off with a curiosity, as far as seeing the footage, and which I was very impressed with the footage, and because the footage cannot be proven to be fake, or it's been actually more proven to be more real than anything with a lot of the, the work that's been done to that footage. But like I said, they can't prove it to be fake, and there's a lot of little details with it that, people mess around with that footage and analyzed and done a lot of more, scientific work with it, and,
right.
So, but that's what it was. It was pretty much the curiosity that sparked it from watching that footage, and like I said, maybe a few movies.
Well, I think there are more and more people getting into it that way.
Right.
You don't have to have had a sighting or have been brought into it. I mean, and I think that's valid. I think it's awesome that you believe.
Right. And I'm finding more and more people are actually getting interested or curious. People I know that, more or less always mocked, through mockery at the subject. I've had really close friends that, that are always been more on the skeptic side. But more and more, because I share a lot of my stuff, on my own timeline, especially on social media, my Facebook page, even because I have a lot of non-believers, on my, under my friends and stuff, and I share a lot of my information and my findings openly. I have no shame in what I do, and there is some people that are getting very curious. They're finding the subject to be very interesting, and and they're starting to pay attention to certain details, and I think that's part of what I've been doing for a long time. I like to educate people and let them know what I'm finding, because I will not post anything or I will not share any information if it's not true. I mean, what I find is real. I've come across certain areas, a lot of tracks, and some areas actually there's two different areas I actually research. But one, I've actually tracks are actually abundant there. They're actually kind of easy to find, and which that's not my main research area. That's actually my research partner, Fred Canny, which he's of Valley Bigfooting, and that's his area, and I do a lot of work in there. And compared to my main research area, which is a little bit more challenged to find evidence such as tracks, but it's like I can get into that. That's something I'll get into later on a subject. But I've been finding clusters of tracks in particular areas, specific areas, related to more roadside crossing areas, and I've been finding evidence, that's actually that puts those claims the more, I don't know the right word to use, making those claims more true, So,
well, I really like that last video you put in on your YouTube. Where you had everything within 100 feet. All these bits and pieces that everybody looks for out in the woods. Right. You had it all right there within 100 feet of each other.
Now, were you referring to the one that had the formations and the tracks found together?
Right. It was the last video you put in about a week ago or something like that.
Okay, it may have been, because I know, because I had posted some, from this past weekend,
Right. And, people spend weeks and months running through the woods, and they don't find that kind of stuff. You found that one piece, that one section, where you had footprints, you had the structures, and I'll tell you something about this one thing that I saw during that video was something laying on the ground in a pattern. You remember that?
Come again, what was it that you saw?
It was something laying on the ground, some sticks put together laying on the ground in a pattern.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because I just, I recently shared a bunch of new photos, which I don't think I shared. I think I shared them with, is it Lauren? I think I shared them on her messenger, because there's different patterns. I've been finding those similar patterns in not just my area, but there's other areas I've been finding them, and I can't explain them, but I just feel like there's something going on. I feel like there are.
That's a new area that some people are starting to concentrate on. It almost looks as if it's like a message system, other than the boat over trees and things like that. It's almost like a different section of messaging. Like the boat over trees are pointing in certain directions or whatever. People have lots of theories about those things. And then the stick structures, the teepees, etc. But now people are starting to notice all these patterns on the ground where they're putting sticks together in certain patterns. And it's possible some people are saying that there's kind of like a symbolic language going on there. Right.
Some kind of occurrences going on. Because now, in a lot of structures and formations that I come across, I mean, a lot of them, they do seem to be bizarre and unexplainable. But there's particular specific design structures that I come across, as far as like a lot of these X markings, and then, like different odd structures and formations that I could, clearly say which or relate to, and this is where I say, the subject, I believe, is a primate, because a lot of what I find relates to our known primates, and because, our primates are very territorial, and a lot of them, in different groups, they show a lot of signs of dominance, and I like to believe, and this is what I share and tell a lot of people, a lot of it relates to them because a lot of it's either signs of territorial markings, signs of dominance, are they trying to tell others as far as other groups or clans perhaps, or, are they trying to tell us something, that's something we don't know. I mean, but yeah, a lot of structures and formations could relate to our known primates. It's it's a natural instinct that they do that means something. We may not ever completely understand it, but but like you were saying, communication. I mean, that's something I actually have not heard of. Which that sounds like that can make a lot of sense. It could be a form of communication, as well.
Right. And without some kind of Rosetta Stone where we have some way to cross-reference it to something else, we're pretty much boggled by the whole situation.
Yeah, and when I find stuff like this, I'll tell you what, for a while, a lot of structures didn't really excite me until I started seeing more and more in, patterns of things. And, to get excited over a structure that, if you study the structure and the formation, and, because a lot of stuff gets formed by weather, but when you see things that are, I don't know, let me try to explain it this way. When you see a bottom of a tree, where the root ball is, when you start finding that up in the air and put behind and crossed over other trees, little things like that, that's when you're actually finding something that's not made by weather, that it was done on purpose by something or someone.
Yeah, it's not random.
Right, and these are what stands out to me. These are the things I look for and get excited about. Like when in the teepee structures, in the areas I've gone in, these were structures that were not there weeks ago, and that's what's getting me excited. I know there's live activity in these locations that I research, and these are in areas where we've actually had an encounter last year during our annual ECBRO expedition, which our next month, this year's annual expedition, it's actually coming up next month, and that's just part of the area. Our area runs it's going to be in Virginia and West Virginia, so it's a lot of territory to cover, and that's what I'm getting excited about, because there's a lot of activity going on there, a lot of changes, and that's one thing I'm very observant about, the changes, and then studying these locations to learn the changes. I'm very consistent with going into the same areas, and there's a lot of us in my group and my research partner. We do the same thing. We stay in general areas where when we go in there, we know what's the layout of the land. We know the territory, what's new and what's not. We see what's new week after week. We go in there. But yeah, that's what's been very exciting to me, because and I share, like I said, I share with everybody, and I'm there's definitely something there, and it's going on.
Not the exact location. You're not sharing that, are you?
No, as far as exact location, well, the thing is, I don't share it openly with like everybody online, but there is a meeting location as far as base camp wise, as far as for the camp and everything. I do invite. There's very few people that do come into that area that know what we do in there. I mean, because the area itself, it's a public location. There's other campers that do camp in that area, but as far as the location, it's thousands of acres of woods. It runs on through the western parts of Virginia, and it connects from north to south. From one end of Virginia to the north part. So and there's other very areas, because like where I'm living at right now, which my buddy Fred Candy puts it, we're in a big salad bowl here in the valley. So, but and there's been other locations which I've researched and studied, and I've had other people in various areas that do their work and share their information with me as well. But my main focus is Virginia right now. So, but not just because I live here, but right. I do have means of traveling, but Virginia is the main focus right now. So,
we did have a question from the chat. They were wondering What's the difference between the different structures in different areas?
Well, I mean, as far as, like I was saying earlier, as far as, well, what's more common in one area, which I don't really see much in the other area, is like the teepee structures. I have come across them in, more abundant, more frequently, recently in my main research area, compared to like Fred Canny's area, which is, he's the founder of Valley Bigfoot. In his area that I research a lot of, he showed me, a teepee structure he's found. I've come across smaller ones in his area. Well, actually, not really smaller. They might have been taller, but used with smaller trees. But, that area is a little bit more spread out as far as structure-wise. Structures are more found. There's more fresh tree snaps and stuff like that, which a lot of tree snaps I don't really pay too much attention to, unless there's a twist involved. A lot of tree snaps and stuff are, actually a lot of it's bear-related. I will tell you, bears do a lot of damage to trees as well, which many people are not aware of that. But yeah, as far as when it comes to their structures and different tree breaks, because a lot of tree bends will form other formations. Sometimes it depends on if there's multiple trees that are bent and broken in a cluster, which I've come across that quite a bit. But as far as, simple tree snaps and breaks, basically, if you see something that's twisted, you could almost rule out a bear doing that. But as far as different areas, some areas do have more of something. And I will tell you, one area compared to the other area, where like my main research area, to kind of give you a general idea of what it looks like. I mean, I will tell you, a lot of it will remind you of the Pacific Northwest in a way, as far as the layout, the environment of, you got more heavy, tall pines. Well, the vegetation is a lot heavier. A lot of moisture is in that area. So you got a lot more healthier growth in that area. It does look like parts of Washington, and over in my area. I'm not saying the whole area is like that, but there is quite a bit that is like that. And then in other locations, you got more oaks and maples, But I think the areas, as well as with the structures, I think they vary, And it's funny because a lot of structures I find are made more with like different down, pines and I mean, I've seen some interesting ones made with, like oaks, small saplings or stuff from other trees. But when you find a formation that's made with pines, and then you have other trees, pieces of trees that are not in their area, that's also interesting as well. But but as far as the different locations, they do vary. Sometimes I don't know why, but it could be maybe the environment or the area. But I don't know if that made any sense, but
no, it did. It did. Thank you. Lori 103 from the chat, she wanted to know the groups that you have in your area. I'm guessing the Sasquatch groups. Are they more aggressive or more docile?
To be honest with you, and not just from me and my group, our experiences, nor along with Fred Canny's area, which he can kind of more explain better than I can for him. But I will tell you this, from the experiences that we've had, and they're actually very shy creatures. They're very curious. And just from other eyewitnesses that, I've taken reports from my main research area, they're never shown any signs of aggression whatsoever. I never been growled at. I've heard noises before, but nothing to intimidate me. They were more or less distant sounds. But I mean, that's right. Yeah, I believe they're just more or less curious creatures. They're shy. Yeah, I never, not once in this area or anywhere else from anyone I've ever heard of anything being aggressive. I mean, I've heard of, mainly here on the East Coast, a majority of what I've heard, I never heard of any creature trying to cause any harm whatsoever. But I just believe they're very curious creatures. They're curious like we are. I mean, but to share a brief, description of the encounter that a few of us shared together, when we came up, it happened at midnight. We were walking along, headed back, coming from a lake, headed back to our camp. And it was totally unexpected, of course. We ended up witnessing 3 subjects, and they were very curious. They kept their distance, that's for sure. We seen their movement, we seen what they were doing, but they kept their eyes on us at all times. I mean, give or take, there was a couple, lookaways, but before long, they just disappeared into the dark. I mean, they went further into the woods and disappeared. But they didn't show no signs of aggression to come after us or anything whatsoever. At first, when it was first happened, I was actually ahead of the group. And when I first noticed what I saw, it caught me off guard. It was a little nervous because I saw these large, piercing, yellowish, amber-looking eyes, and I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what it was. But, to make a long story short, they kept their distance from us. And we know without a doubt that it was a small family. There was one, we went back the next day to do a daytime investigation. There was definitely an 8-foot-tall subject there, a 6-foot-tall subject, and one that was between 4 and 5 feet tall. And, I've shared this story numerous times, and of course I had one guy say, "Oh, you had a small family of bears there. You were lucky they didn't come after you." I said, "No, those were not bears." I know the behavior of bears. Bears would not have stuck around like that. Every time I encountered bears are in the opposite direction, 100 miles an hour.
And Mom would have wrapped them up and taken off after a while.
Exactly. Or if there was a mama bear there, sure we would have knew about it. So,
yeah. Somebody wanted to know, did you hear any language sounds, or have you heard any language sounds?
That's one thing. I'm always listening. When I'm out in the woods, I'm always listening. Honestly, I can't say that I have. I've heard noises at night. I've heard the different howls and wails. We've been whooped at, probably less than 50 yards away behind our camp a couple years ago. And that was a very cool experience. Never saw nothing, but what it was letting us know that it was there, that's for sure. Now, this past weekend, I've heard something on my audio recorder, because I set my audio recorder the first night I was out there, actually Memorial Day weekend. I got out there Friday and got situated and put my audio recorder out behind the camp up on a stump. And the next day, I went to go get it, and while I was making my coffee and getting situated, I was listening to my audio recorder, and about 5 hours into it, I started hearing movement. As far as the sound started off with a movement. You can tell, there's deer that come into camp all the time. Then I heard a little bit heavier movement going on. Sometimes, because I know bears will come into the camps. Because I heard the trees, I heard the limbs snapping and everything else. And, I can't say for sure if it was a bear or something else, but then I started hearing another noise, something else. It was whatever that was making a noise. It was, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like more of a grunt or a quick, real snort, and whatever it was close to the audio recorder. But then it kept getting distant. You kept hearing it distant away. I've heard, whatever it was, I don't know. But I've heard various sounds. But as far as possible language, I can't say that I have. I know people who have claimed, who have experienced different languages, and hearing things, but I can't relate to that, to be honest with you.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I haven't either. So what would you say has been your most interesting experience or scariest, or if you've already said those, do you have any other experiences to tell us about?
Well, as far as experiences go, as far as anything frightening, it's funny because, I'm out in the woods a lot by myself, and I very seldomly will ever feel that feeling of fear. Sometimes I get in a certain location, and I have had that feeling come over me, like there's something there watching me, but you can't see nothing. Especially if you're in a area where the area around you is thick, and you possibly, I've heard movement, as far as the thought of something paralleling me as I was hiking through the woods. And then when you stop and look around, you're not seeing nothing, but, it's just, you do get that feeling sometimes. It hits me every once in a while. It's not I can't say for sure if there really is something there, but you have that feeling, that adrenaline starts kicking in, and your senses kind of become a little extra alert,
Mm-hmm.
But, that's the only time I've ever, as far as encountering anything, I've never been scared to encountering anything, but I'll tell you, I will share a recent experience that was very exciting. This was 2 weeks ago, and this actually will make my second encounter I've ever had. It was, like I said, 2 weeks ago, and it was around 11 o'clock at night. I was in my research area, and I was coming back down the road in my Blazer, and I take my time riding on the road because it's all dirt road, it's all gravel, and, you got a lot of wildlife out there. I'll work my way back down the road. I've had deer come across the road, jump out on me. I've actually seen a coyote on the side of the road, raccoons cross the road, and as I'm approaching probably about maybe a mile from my camp, here I am. I'm looking along, all of a sudden, a set of eye shine catches my attention, and I'm staring at it. And within 3 seconds of staring at it, and I saw the eye shine very clear, the subject did a complete left turn, and as it turned, you could see from the shoulders, you could see very clearly the mass of the shoulders and the head of the subject turn off and go run off into the woods, and that creature had to been at least a good 8 feet tall. As soon as I seen it and I seen it disappear, I actually kind of sped up to that location where it ran off. I threw my window down. I happened to have a spotlight in my Blazer, and I shined in the woods right through there. Not knowing the subject could have still been there. That's just, I could be a little crazy, I guess, but I just wanted to see it a little bit more. I stopped right there, and I shined my spotlight in there, and of course I could not see nothing. It could have ran behind something or just kept on running into the dark because, like I said, it was 11 o'clock at night. But I was probably between 30 and 50 yards away from it when I first saw it. And I guess the way my light was hitting it when it did its left turn, it's where I was able to capture the upper mass of it, because where it was standing on the side of the road, it was standing right next to a small pine sapling. So that was a very awesome experience right there. Like I said, that was 2 weeks ago. At least, a good 2 weeks ago. So, but it's funny because I documented that. I have a map of that whole entire location. Anytime I learn about something or I experience it, I document that on that geographical map. Now, one thing I kind of jumped ahead, because of that same weekend I was out there and experienced that, the first night I was out there, right there at camp where I was camping, it was probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Yeah, about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I was hanging around at camp. And, by the way, the encounter happened the next day. But the first day, the day before that, this is where my other experience kind of happened. Now, I didn't see nothing. But where I was camping at, I walked out to the main road. Now, it was dark. I didn't have no lights turned on. I had my spotlight in my hand. But as I got into the middle of the road, I decided to turn my light on and shine it in the woods across the road. And all of a sudden, as soon as I started shining my light into the woods, I heard two things. First, it sounded like a small animal ran off, like perhaps a deer. Next, you hear with almost a steady, fast walk. And there was no denying that the sound of the walk being as heavy and hard thumping that it was flat-footed. It was a very heavy animal, creature, taking off, trying to disappear into the woods. But the only thing I could explain that I spooked, something, because, like I said, I walked into the middle of the road, being as dark as it was, and, I guess my spotlight scared it off. But it didn't run off. It was a heavy walk, like it was trying to get away. And every sound of each step it made, it was thumping, and it was a heavy crunch with a thump sound. And, of course, not seeing what it was, keeping my back towards camp, I started walking backwards. Now that there was like it was exciting, but yet that there was a little, I guess you'd say a little thrilling. But I shared that as well, because when I experience things, I try to share things, update people on each day I'm there. Well, like my main research area, there's no phone signal, but that's when, like my encounter that I just shared, I was coming back from the little local country store that's like, almost 7-8 miles out, and that's the only place you can get phone signal in there. So I go up there and I'll actually log on and share updates, and I try to keep people informed, But yeah, that's my most recent things, and I feel like the more I'm out there, the more chances I have of other things happening. So I'm out there every chance I get, but. Yeah, so the next couple of weeks.
So far, you haven't gotten any growls. You haven't got any grunts or anything, shaking at trees or anything like that, just to let you know you're getting too close, or none of that stuff yet. They're just pretty much passive, looking and walk away, that kind of thing.
Yeah, none of that have I ever experienced. I mean, through my parabolic mic, I've heard a grunt sound in the distance. Parabolic mic, which it always has sounded like a grunt, almost like a bark type grunt. I don't know. It's kind of weird to describe that, but it was like a quick grunt. But that was a good year ago, though. But as far as other sounds or anything like that, any signs of aggression, none whatsoever. So yeah.
So what is your let's say you're starting to do your research, you're starting to put it on paper, like your geographical locations and things like that. Are you building any patterns?
I'm sorry, come again?
Are you building any patterns to what they do?
Well, yeah. Well, it's funny that you asked that. As far as between either if there's sightings, encounters, because each encounter or whatever it may be, or happening or event, I mark actually specifically what it is. I even mark who it's by, if it's me or somebody else. Yeah, there's actually there is a pattern going on here. Everything's within roughly a mile radius of all the fresh happenings. Oldest one I got in that area by now is probably about 2 or 3 years old. But yeah, I'm actually picking up a pattern, and not just in my area, but in other areas. I'm starting to study and pick up, where all the findings, all the little things, like as far as tracks and small structures. Because a lot of my tracks and a lot of the structures and formations, I'm actually finding together, which is very interesting. So yeah, there is a pattern developing here, and I'm noticing that, and I'm making record of it. So yeah, but like I said, it's all within roughly a mile.
Right, these experiences all within that mile and stuff. Do you have any idea where they are camping out? Or because this movement is just movement. They're possibly out hunting, or they're checking out the area or something like that. That is a moving area.
Right.
Have you been able to get close to where they actually hang out to sleep, whatever?
As far as sleeping territory or, where their home may be, that I have not come to close to. But now, as far as you mentioned possibly hunting, which I believe that's possibly what they're doing. Because, like last year, the encounter that we had, we knew there was deer in the area. 'Cause before we had that encounter, we walked up on a deer that was just across the road. Less than probably 20 yards from where we had our encounter a year ago. Like I said, there was deer just up the road that jumped across the road before I had my sighting a couple of weeks ago. Now, that's my theory right now, but of course it can't be proven because it's just a theory or a thought that that's possibly what they're doing, running deer, or they're perhaps hunting. I know people have experiences during the daytime, but it seems like at nighttime that's when more happens and where they're more active. Because a lot of people believe they're just strictly nocturnal. No, because I've had one of my encounters or road crossings from one of my reports, I should say, that happened during the daytime. It was probably just later in the evening while it was still daytime. But like I said, they're moving around that area. I believe they probably are hunting, in that general area. But that's like I said, that's just a theory that what they might be doing. So, but that there I can't prove, and nor do I know where they may be, hunkering down at, to stay hidden.
No real pathways or anything you can focus in on.
No, there's a lot of ground out in that area. There's a lot of deep woods, a lot of high terrain. There's locations where, I have gone pretty far and pretty deep in the woods before, in that area. And, there's so much ground to cover out there. It's, cause I don't know how, as far as like bears and deer, they'll travel miles to get around, but we don't know how Sasquatches may be. As far as we know, they can go 5 miles just to go hunt, on foot. But, it's like, we don't know how they really work. That's something that we have to learn and kind of put together. But yeah, that would be awesome to find out where they live. Perhaps, get closer and maybe learn more. But
well, how long you been in that one spot?
Well, this location here, I've actually been probably over almost 3 years, but more and more actually up to the last couple of years, really. For the last 1.5 to 2 years, it's been more focused in that area. Especially with the more that's happening there, the more that's being found in there. Right now, that's definitely going to be my area. But the last couple of years has been my main focus in that area. Now I have gone to other areas and looked into other areas where not much has really been found or kept my attention there. But there's other locations I have yet to visit that's information's been shared with me as well. Yeah, but for now on, that area, and like I said, in that general area, there's a lot of ground I have not touched foot on in there, and it just, I'm getting around to it. So
now, what would be your top experience, and then what would you do with it in that area? You're just walking through the woods, you see some signs and whatnot, but something happens, and what would you do with it? As far as what is your goal with those people out there? Would you just stand there and try to break the ice somehow?
What's that now?
Would you try to break the ice with them in some fashion?
Well, I've actually given that some thought before. What would I do in a situation if I've actually come face to face with something? That's, I've had random thoughts come through my head, but I don't know. That's actually a hard thing to do. I don't think I would run. I would definitely like to try to show them that I'm harmless, that I mean them no harm, that, hey, I'm a friend, because, I want them to be, to get the feeling or know that they could trust me, because I'm just there to learn about them and get a better understanding about them. But perhaps
that would be the perfect chance to get a better understanding of them if you actually bumped into one someplace. But a lot of people are collecting evidence. They're putting stuff on the internet. They're collecting evidence and showing all this stuff. Well, there's thousands of Squatch out there doing the same damn thing.
Right.
But what are these other people trying to do when they actually run face-to-face into one? What would be their goal from that point on? I mean, what do you think would be the best approach?
Well, if there was a possibility, if there was an opportunity to get the proper DNA or the proof by whatever means possible, as far as, well, I'm going to put it this way, because I am, against, not killing, as far as for these subjects here. But if at all possible, if there was anywhere in that location, if I encountered a territory where I found in their area where they may be living, if I found the subjects themselves and maybe, say, just randomly, like some hair or possible DNA, of course I would carefully try to collect the DNA and document what I'm seeing while I'm collecting it.
No, I'm talking about actually seeing one face-to-face.
Well, seeing one face-to-face, I really don't know if I would, I don't know. Depends on what it possibly may present to me. Because like I said, in the distance and stuff, them being curious and appearing to be, just curious but yet shy creatures, I definitely would not underestimate them, especially seeing what's found out there, what they are capable of doing. I believe if one found me, or if I came across one face-to-face, if he felt threatened by any chance, I mean, he could snap me like a twig. And I mean, I'm not a little guy. I'm 6 foot tall.
If they're hanging around and walking around you, and they know that you know they're there,
right?
Eventually, you possibly might run into one that is so curious it's just going to stand there next to a tree and let you see it. Just to see, I mean, they're curious about you, and they're going to be curious about your reactions to them.
Right.
And then what would be your next step, do you think? I mean, you run this through your head. What would be your next step in contact?
I think I would take the chance to possibly, I can be very, I don't know, I can be fearless at times, but I think depending on my feelings that I may have at the time, I believe, I'm saying this now, but I know until it happens it could be a different story, but I believe I may possibly try to approach the subject and see how they react as I get closer. And I've always thought of presenting myself as, let's put it this way. In the world of our known primates, there's ways of showing your loyalty or your surrender, showing them that they're the higher up. There's ways that I, would possibly present myself as a no threat to them. As far as a simple hand gesture, as far as reaching out to them as I lower myself, that's a simple way of showing that, hey, you're submit to them, that they're the higher up, that you respect them. Perhaps would they understand that as they do in the known primate world. But I think there's a chance I would probably approach them and see what happens. I mean,
and then take it.
Like I said.
Nobody knows.
Right. It's unpredictable, really.
We don't know what their culture is.
Right.
And their own communication level. Some people have come up with the idea, don't smile or grin because that's a sign of aggression. I don't necessarily believe that right now. necessarily.
There's a number of, because in the known primate world, there's a number of signs that show aggression or excitement.
Right.
To another primate.
It might not go across to Bigfoot. We don't know yet.
Right, exactly. Like I said, they're not to be underestimated, that's for sure. We don't understand them like that, so we don't know how similar they are to our known primates. I mean, them being what they are, I mean, they're definitely different. I mean, like a lot of people say, they're more humanized and more human-like we are, because they're bipedal. We don't know how they think. I mean, it's obvious that they're very intelligent creatures. But if you, like you say, if you get one that's very curious, as curious as we are to them, they might want to approach you closer. But like I said, we don't know. So.
Okay, we're going to leave it at that for a few minutes. I think it's time. Excuse me. It's about time to take a break.
All right.
Lauren, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, it's about time we take a break. And we'll take an intermission, everybody. We'll be back in about, we got 2 different songs here. We'll be back in about 7 minutes, give or take. So go get a coffee or a Coke or a smoke, and we'll be right back.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to go get me something to drink.
Okay.
All right. I'll be back in a little bit.
Okay.
Back in a minute.
It doesn't matter who's right.
we are back. For everyone, that was Kellen Heller, one of my favorite bands. Go ahead and go look them up on Facebook. And we have a caller, I thought. Maybe not. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. That one was scared. 540, are you listening in, or do you have a question?
No, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Fred.
Okay.
What's up, brother?
I recognize your voice right away.
Yeah, we're trying to... how y'all doing? Good.
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. My question is for Daniel. I know he's found a ton of tracks in my area and a ton of tracks in his area. My question is, have you noticed any difference in the size as far as the width of the ball or the torso break or anything like that in majority of the tracks you found?
Well, that is a good question, Fred. A majority of the tracks that I find in your area, a lot of them average around 12 to 13 inches. Some of them average around the ball of the foot, usually about 5 to 6 inches, and the heels are usually around, I want to say, about 3 inches. Now, there was a couple of tracks that I found in your area that were much larger, of course. But as far as the tracks found in my area, some of them average around the same, but I did notice that there was a couple that were fairly large as well. I've actually found a couple 16-inch tracks, which I have them documented as well. Some of them, I think, most of your average tracks in your area usually average around 12 to 13 inches, 6 by 4 inches around ball and heel. But there is a little bit of a difference. But I believe like a majority of the tracks I may have found in your area, I'm guessing that they may be possible juveniles or just maybe female tracks, because of the, like what you had told me before, Fred, that you believe that they are females from them being narrow around the heel. So
the females got a narrow heel and the males got a wide heel, kind of flat heel, from what I've noticed. But you've collected more tracks in both areas, because you're on one side of National Forest, I'm on the other side, and the groups that we have, mine are concentrated, yours are spread out, and you got bigger ones in your area. Like tonight that y'all had those ones come down off that ridge toward y'all.
Right.
Y'all seen eyeballs, and from what I've seen, what Tracy Arnold had on that one eyeball, it was over 9 foot tall on that one
that
shot.
Was actually before, where you had that was actually before we had our encounter. Because we were spread out around the lake, and that's what had his son Elijah kind of frightened and kind of sick in the stomach. Yeah. I don't know. I told Tracy, I said, we got to get him out there again so he could, maybe Elijah will be able to take it a little bit better. I mean, he's 14 years old now, so.
I can say that Daniel is one hell of a researcher. I mean, I've taught him a lot of things, and even though that I've been doing it a couple of years longer than Abe, I'm still learning from Daniel because, I do it the old-fashioned way. I go out and I video. Like I got pictures of juvies, I got pictures of adults, I got pictures of full groups and everything. But that's as far as it goes with me and forward-looking footprints. But Daniel, he does the research, and that's something I give him credit on because I don't, I do my research, but I'm not as technical to a point. I mean, Daniel, he studies everything. He researches everything he does. And that's better than what I do. Me, I go out and I just, I go out and I'm being followed automatically, On some days I do, some days don't, And I get, like a couple weeks ago, I was walking through the woods and I heard something walk, so I sped up and I stopped in mid-step. They took the extra step. I immediately turned to my right, zoomed in. There was a big black one about 75 yards in front of me squatting. And I'm like, okay. And and I counted 5 in that group right there, and they just sat there and watched me, you know, and stuff like that, you know. But that's about, you know, that's about the way when I do my research. But Daniel, he goes into the details, which is the best thing to do, because he knows what he's doing, you know, as far as, you know, like when he talks about the way the Squatches are as far as the, you know, the primate or they have human and stuff like that, you know, he knows more than that than I do about it, you know. But, you know, and another question I got is for him is, on your structures, do you ever notice any twisting or just plain bend, you know, bending like that TP I showed you? And in your area, I've seen massive teepees in your area. Like that one day we found that one that was over 13 foot tall.
Oh yeah, right up behind the camp where we actually had later that night. We actually had the whooping right behind us that same night.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah, that was awesome. But not as far as I have come across a lot of twists in the structures, but most of the twists come from actually breaks. I actually found some that actually been completely twisted around. I've actually found trees that were twisted and pulled around other trees. But like most of the recent structures I've been finding a lot of them were crisscrossed, other pieces of limbs added to them, sitting up at the top of them. And there was one where if you look at my pictures, actually the one I have a video of where I showed the structure formations where I found and casted those recent tracks. Now, with that formation, there was a break that was twisted going across behind the other limbs that were crossed over, and you know, a couple of them were crossed over, and then there was an X formed in the middle of all that. But yeah, that was actually a very fresh formation, judging from the rip of the tree that was pulled over mixed with it, and it did have some twist to it. I actually have been finding a little bit more twist in that area, but not as much as I do in your area. A lot of the tree structures and formations in your area do have a little bit more of a twist to them. But yeah, there is some twist going on in my area. Actually, Fred, there's actually a couple of my areas that you have not been in. I have yet to take you in that would blow your mind away. I'll be glad to invite anybody down there to see what I see in person. It's actually mind blowing. It's very exciting. It's like a kid in a candy store. You know, you get overwhelmed with excitement. Yep. So.
But there is a difference between the two places as far as how they feel.
Well, in my area, I'm right off the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is the area they travel. Daniel's area is more mountainous. I mean, he's got like miles and miles and miles. They go into West Virginia, goes down toward Whitfield. You know, I mean, he's got all mountain. You know, we both got more mountains. You know, but I got the Parkway, and he's got back in mountains. Like he's got Braley's Pond, Elkhorn Lake, Stanton Dam, Braley, Todd Lake. You know, he's got all these lakes. You know, that the Squatches can go and fish and get food and stuff. You know, there's a lot of deer up around his area, a lot of turkey, a lot of wild game, and the Squatches ain't hurting for food up there. I can tell you that right now. There is abundant food.
And not to mention all the different spring-fed streams and the rivers that actually flow through there. There's a lot of spring-fed streams that come down from off the mountains.
Yep, exactly.
I'm drinking plenty of times out of those waters, and, you know, I know if I can, they can too. We know there's plenty of food in the streams, the rivers. I mean, I've seen the evidence as far as, you know, the crustaceans, there's fish, crawfish, whatever. As far as food-wise in the area too, I tell you, there's an abundance of vegetation to eat. One, for example, is the ferns. The ferns are so healthy, and, you know, a lot of people don't know you could actually eat the roots of the ferns, which I haven't tried them. I have yet to try them, but it's something anybody, you know, you could survive off of. So,
out of all that acreage, you're on the north, Fred, and he's down there. Out of all that acreage spread out all over the place, how many Squatch do you think there are?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, with that there, while Fred's on the line, I'm going to kind of let him take this one because I can tell you what I'm getting down to and kind of figuring out in my area. I believe there is groups in that area, perhaps family groups. You know, like we encountered a small family last year, which we honestly believe was an actual family. But I believe that they are a little bit more spread out in my area. Of course, I like to say they're a little bit more elusive, but at the same time, I believe they're getting a little bit more blunt, more bold.
No, I'm talking about that whole national park, because you guys are separated with a whole national area in between you with hundreds of acres. That they can use.
In my area, I got better yet, there's over 130,000 acres of national forest. All right, I'm in Augusta County at the beginning of it, and Daniel is in the end of it where he's going into toward West Virginia. Yeah. So he's got more of the mountains, you know. I mean, but there's a lot in between now. In my area alone, I know I got at least 3 to 5 family groups in my area. And in Daniel's area, when we first camped there, we had a Squatch watching us the first night we was there.
Yeah,
we went back through there, and I stopped him. I said, "You smell that?" He said, "Yeah." And then it started raining. We'd be about to field, and I come sliding down a ridge, and there was a foot track right next to where I was at. So that Squatch was just there when me and him started walking, when me and him was in camp. So they come close, and they watch at camp. So they was watching me and him, you know. But as far as the Squatch-wise, I say in Daniel's area, I say there's more than 5 to 7 groups coming in and out of the area at any given time. You know what I mean? He's got more than I have, because his is spread out into West Virginia. His Squatches are coming out of West Virginia into Virginia. Mine's coming off Blue Ridge Parkway. So he's got, as far as the amount of Squatches, he's got more than I have. But his is spread out. Mine's constantly, his is spread out. But he's got, the ones in his area will come around to the camp real late at night when you're sleeping or something like that and watch them, you know. And like Daniel said, he heard heavy walking and stuff like that. In my area, they come running through about 50 to 100 yards away from the camp, and they cross the road, you know, on the other side, you know, and stuff like that. But they're all up and down the road, you know. They're all up and down through the mountains there. So he's got plenty. He ain't got to go far. He can sit in camp and probably video on the floor if he wanted to.
And to keep in mind too, you know, and I know Fred knows this too, but the national forest that runs through Virginia here is also actually on parallel with the Appalachian Trail, which is a lot of people will, you know, tell you, you know, a lot of sightings occurred along the Appalachian Trail, you know, which the Appalachian Trail we know runs quite a ways from Maine to Georgia pretty much, and we're pretty much, you know, it runs right through here, and which acts as pretty much a highway for a lot of wildlife, and a lot of people believe that the Squatches do travel that, but there's a lot of activity going on here for sure, but like I said, I believe in my general area, they're more spread out, and the reason I believe they're a little bit more spread out, but they're active in a specific area, but yet they're more spread out, because especially with the thickness of the forest and the density of the forest, with, you know, the vegetation and the big, tall, heavy pines. I mean, they can easily be, you know, hidden pretty well too. I mean, there's been times where I walk, you know, through my hike and everything. I believe there's been times where I could have been easily being watched and not know it. I mean, just because I don't see something every day while I'm out there doesn't mean they're not there with me. But and that's the way I always think when I go out there. I always believe that they're there, but, you know, I mean, I've been in the woods where I've actually experienced, you know, I'll be standing there and it'll be dead quiet, and I've heard loud tree snaps, and cracks in the woods, which will get your attention. They definitely make the hair on the back of your neck stand up because you're looking around like, where did that come from, So,
yeah, when you go into Daniel's area, it's like going back into prehistoric times. That's the kind of vegetation he's got in his area, and it's lush, very lush area.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, what about the rest of the forest, though? Do you think they're pretty spread out among those areas, or there might be some valleys that have more? Like you've got a certain amount in Daniel's area, a certain amount in Fred's area, but the rest of the forest is still out there. There might be different pockets scattered around someplace elsewhere that these other groups that you're in contact with are in communication with these other groups.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Daniel. You answer this one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to say, there's so much territory. There's so much forest that, even mankind, humans that have not yet put foot on, or I should say there's areas where it's not common there's some areas that are not common for people that hike and travel to. There's a lot of hiking trails that people do hike on, but yet there's areas where, like, I like to believe where some of the areas I go to, it's not common for a hiker to hike in these specific areas. A lot of hikers will stay on traveled trails, the well-beaten path, I should say.
Right, they're not bushwhackers.
Right. Yeah, I like to believe I do travel on trails because, I found quite a bit of things off of trails, by walking and being observant on both, on the sides of the trail. I actually have found some really cool evidence, and especially structures and whatnot. Actually, recently, last time I was out there, one of my tracks I found was on a trail. I was walking along the trail. I was probably almost a good mile in the woods, and I was actually kind of getting disappointed. All I know, I was just walking, not finding nothing, and then bam, from out of nowhere, I'm seeing a track in the middle of the road. Not in the middle of the road, but in the middle of the trail. And you can make it out. The toes were there, and the inside, it was a left foot. No, it was a right foot. You could see the indentation of the right side of the foot, and then, of course, the toes. Of course, it was slightly going uphill to where it was, and the trail was slightly slanted, sloping down to the right, which cast was a little challenge because pouring your plaster, there was a little bit of runoff. I had to use a stick to help kind of guide it, hold it in there. But, it was, I don't know, it's definitely a challenge to find tracks on trails, but I do travel trails. But like I said, I'm more going off trail, off the beaten path, deeper into the woods where, most likely where there's a better chance of perhaps coming across more. Because that's how, a lot of the stuff I find are, a lot of it is pretty well deep in the woods. But, there's areas, there's a lot of high and low ground. I'm sure there's caves that people don't even know about that, have yet to get discovered. But, I think it all depends on, getting out there, and just timing more to perhaps traveling more, which that's one thing, that's one of my goals. That's one thing that I hope for next month, because as far as me going out there, I've been pretty much camping for almost every weekend for the last month and a half now, and most of the camping has been done in Fred's area, but the last couple of weekends I've been going back out into my area and more or less scouting out the area and trying to get a general idea, because I'm working on a game plan for, I don't know how many people are going to show up. And I know there's so many signed up to go, but it doesn't mean they're all going to show up like last year. But, but when we get out there, depending on the group of people we do have, I will be placing people in different locations, because there's a lot of territory, there's a lot of ground that needs to be covered, and I'm excited. I hope it works out that we do have enough people, because I believe this year's expedition is going to be successful like it was last year, because our encounter happened during our expedition last year. And last year we had it in May. This year it's going to be June. right here in Virginia. I will mention that while I'm bringing the subject up.
Go ahead.
There is an event. I do have it under Facebook events. It's the 2015 ECBRO Camping Expedition. It's going to be held here in Virginia. There is a link shared for the base camp meeting location. And it's going to be a simple thing. I don't know how the BFRO does their expeditions, but the way we do ours.
You're going to charge $300 a pop for everybody to show up?
No, our events are free.
Yeah.
Everything's
come
free.
on,
I don't charge
the pattern here.
Why do you want to charge for something that you can go out in the woods and do? What we're doing, what Daniel's doing is we're getting the experience, and we're getting into a hot area at no charge, and that right there is more fun, and you learn more.
It's a national park too. I mean, you can't. What do you do? What are they doing charging $300 a pop? I had a heated conversation with the boss. I forget his name now. Who's the boss?
Matt Moneymaker.
Yeah, Matt. I haven't been on that site for a few years, and he came back. I never spoke with Matt. I'm sorry. Go ahead. He came back to make some money, and he invited everybody to go to this Olympic project thing. And I said, well, so I know a lot of people in E.C.B.R.O up here. So do I have to spend $300 just to meet my friends? And that question was deleted, and I was knocked out of that one little project.
You're just one of many that's been knocked out of there because of people asking questions such as that. I mean, one of my own team members, and he's been a really great supporter of our organization, and he is a former BFRO member, whatnot. Which I'm not going to get into all the details, but he shared some a situation with me which was pretty dirty to me, which he invested a lot of money to participate in something, and he had to back out of it, and they would not give him his money back. And I said, how much that is. People. Which that's wrong. I mean, now as far as the meeting location in the base camp, it is the actual campground that's out in the middle of the woods, which is run by the state. I mean, they only charge $5 per site, but that's everybody. That's your own. And the thing is, you can't reserve the sites because it's a first come first served basis. You're
going to have a map of the campground on there.
There is a link to the actual location, to the camping site. Now, that will be a meeting location. Now, anyone attending does not have to stay there. There is other locations off the roads of, where I camp. I never camp in the actual campground. There's other open sites that you could pull into and set up your own tent, whatnot. There is bathrooms, outhouse counties, whatever. There's ones down at the entrance of the lake. Of course, keep in mind there's no running water. There's no plumbing. Like I said, they're more or less parked outhouse grounds that are planted there on a foundation, but pretty much.
Is there room for trailers and things like that, little motorhomes?
Campers and motorhomes, RVs, they're very much welcome. There is plenty of room for campers and RVs. They do have dump stations and all that stuff, but no water hookups. So, and one thing I do specify: bring all your own gear, your own food. We are not responsible to provide any of that. Bring your own equipment and gear, plaster, etc. One thing I will do, I've done it last year. We do have waivers. There will be a set of rules. I mean, the rules are simple. I mean, I'm not strict on rules, but it's pretty much to ensure everyone's safety. And as far as the waivers go, it's to cover us on liability, and also everyone, make sure everyone understands that they're there on their own, on their own will or accord, and they're, and that we're not liable for any injury whatsoever. So.
No guns allowed, or what's the gun rules in that park?
Not on national. If there's no hunting season, you cannot have any firearms unless you have a permit to carry a pistol, like concealed weapons. That's the only time you can carry a firearm. Otherwise than that, if there's not a hunting season, no guns. If there's a hunting season, you're allowed to have guns. But this time of year, there's no hunting season, so no guns allowed. But if you got a concealed permit, you can legally carry one on national forest.
Right,
Okay, so
and
that's
I'm not sure exactly how. Huh?
That's the limit. That's good to know, because some people might just go out there with their rifle or their shotgun or something like that.
Right, and trust me, if they get caught, because game warden and park rangers do ride through there quite a bit.
He's a doozy.
Yeah, and another thing I was actually asked about not long ago was one gentleman. He's coming down from Pennsylvania. He does plan on attending. Him and another gentleman who I met actually at one of our public events that we held a couple months ago. He wants to make sure no one brings dogs. Of course, dogs are, as far as pet-wise, they got to stay at the camp. But as far as running dogs, that's illegal over there. It's pretty much basically the same deal with what Fred explained about the guns. Dogs, you're not allowed to run dogs. Dogs are supposed to be on a leash, and maintained. So, if
You
anyone
think
does
dogs
bring
are a
dogs,
problem with Squatch also?
well, I think they are, not just with Squatch, but I think they would, what's the right word, disrupt the area. I don't know if they would be a problem with the Squatch themselves, but, as far as, because there's a lot of bears in the area as well. Perhaps if it got tangled up with the wrong animal, someone could lose their animal.
Right. So if somebody's got a little yap lap dog or something like that and they can't leave it at home, that's okay?
Well, I don't know. If it's going to be annoying, I might have to shut it up myself.
Yap dogs are a pain in the ass, that's for damn sure. Anybody with a beagle, leave it at home.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so no animals. Let's keep the animals at home. So, yeah, because we want to enjoy our time out there as well. It's not just, when we go out there, when we do our expeditions, we have a good time. We have a good fellowship. We get to meet new people, and we get to share experiences with each other. And as far as once we do go out there, and if we, set up in groups like I do and spread people out, because I'll have locations set out on the map, the show locations. Part of what we do is after, everyone meets back at, the given times, we like to go over evidence and things found. And if there's other areas, depending on the evidence found in those areas, we'll actually start concentrating more in those areas, And that's basically what I've been doing on my own as far as scouting out and, doing my research, kind of narrowing down locations. And, and I've been finding some really cool stuff. I came across a pond that I didn't know that was out there, and I was, actually blown away by the area, and it was out in the middle of nowhere, up a high mountain. This was on the West Virginia side, and I was like, I did some walking around, and I found a nice, wide, 16-inch track out there, and that's actually, I shared that as well. So, yeah, there's some nice squatches around there, even though, you could judge it from the size of the tracks, there's some, some big ones around there. It's just a matter of catching them at the right time, So,
now the one problem with the E.C.B.R.O. Events that they put together is that they end up with 100 people or so in one little packed area, and
that's too many people.
That's too many people, and they're stomping around in the woods, and there's a possibility they could actually ruin the site, chase them away.
Yep.
So how would you handle that if, like right now, you're advertising the situation? How would you handle that if you actually ended up with too many people?
Well, it's funny that, yes, because, as far as the event itself, that I do advertise it, yes. But right now, they're showing 26 people that are signed up to go. Now, because I do try to give a deadline at a certain point where, which I did end up sharing the location sooner than I was going to. Because I try not to advertise the actual location, because, we want to do whatever is possible to prevent hoaxing, because that's something we are totally against, hoaxing. We do not lie. And the E.C.B.R.O. is all about sharing the truth, and only the truth. We will not make up anything to, gain attention or popularity. Those are the things we are against. Of course, we do advertise ourselves as nonprofit. That's why our events are free. I do have fundraisers throughout the year, which does help and assist in gaining equipment, and of course, I've had some haters throughout the years talking about, with me and my fundraisers, calling it profiteering. It's not, I'm not pocketing the money. It goes towards equipment and the expenses that I put into trying to have events, So, but, yeah, as far as a large quantity of people, yeah, that would be a little crazy, but with the 1,000 of acres that are out there, I'll definitely get people spread out. I will advise people, bring your compass if you don't know the area.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have some background of the woods to be able to go out there. And you can't maybe the people that come out there and show up on their own. You're just there to show them there is a place here that has activity. And you're going to point out different areas for different groups and say, go look, do what you do. Yeah.
Now, to get to these locations, I will tell people they will actually, to start off in locations, there is locations where, it's going to be too far to travel by foot to get to the locations. The roadway, they're not hard to get to. Everything's straight points pretty much here and there. But there will be locations where they will have to drive to stop and meet and then get out and do their thing from there. And perhaps someone will leave a vehicle at one point so they can meet back and drive up to get, whatever, all that's, pretty much well organized and meet up kind of deal. But like last year, we had a total of 6 of us all together, which that was perfect. Actually, I will say 6 people, that actually worked out great. Because the campsite where we set up at, it was we're at camp this past weekend. It's a well open area. Me and Fred's camped there before a couple of years ago. That was one of our first camping locations together out there. But yeah, there's hold on, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, to have a small group is easier. But yeah, like me and Fred, you could drop us off in the middle of the woods, and we have a sense of direction where it's hard for me to get lost because I've gone out in the woods so deep, knowing where I'm not going to turn back and go back the way I came. I always go out different directions, which I know the layout of the land up there and which direction is what road, and so. But I will advise people when we get there, and we'll go over the map and locations and everything, which direction not to keep heading, because you're going to keep going further into West Virginia.
Right. And you're going to have a cutoff time to be back at camp?
Oh yeah, there will be set up times and everything. Yeah, there'll be starting and meet-up times and everything. Of course, if there's people that don't return back at a certain time, then we'll be concerned for us to go look for them.
Mm-hmm. And we always keep in radio contact at all time.
Yeah, that's another thing. We do bring radio communication, and that's another thing I advise people before I noted it. Yeah, if you have radios, bring your radios. Now, there is a challenge with radios out there because of the high and low grounds and the density of the forest. Like my two-way radios I got, they're 36-mile range. They're supposed to be really good radios, but even them, me and Fred's been out in the woods and really not all that far apart, and we've had trouble communicating because he might be on lower ground, I'm further up on higher ground, down on the down in a hollow or something, and we could pick up, but it's not the best reception.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Got something in between you.
What's that now?
You got something in between you. You can't help that out in the woods.
Right. Now, what will help if, depending on the groups, if one group communicate back to the other group and that group relay back to us, that will work that way, because one group's a mile away, and depending on where they're at, they're not going to reach us a mile away. They would have to meet. They would have to contact the middle group, that's in between us, to communicate back to us.
Now, some of the other groups I've been in contact with, when we have these kind of meetings, they advise people to bring a whistle.
yeah, that's a good, that's something I didn't even actually think of, but, that's a good idea. So perhaps I'll pick up a bunch of whistles. Yeah. Hey, even flare guns wouldn't be a bad idea as well. So. But I don't know. So, but it's something we look forward to every year. Actually, last year was actually our first expedition that we held. So this year we're excited for this year. Like I said, we don't know how many people will show up, but it's from here on out, every year we're going to start holding expeditions. And I was actually going to, I advertise it as being in West Virginia because basically we will be in West Virginia. Now next year, I want to start pinpointing different states. In 2016, me and a few others, we actually been in discussion as far as holding our expedition in North Carolina. I do have a fellow researcher down there who has a location. But yeah, we have yet to actually, go scout that area out and get to know that area. But of course, that's subject to change. That's well over a year away. So, but we work on planning on, investigating other parts of the East Coast here. So that's our goal, and that's what we, research and study is the East Coast. But because I do have other divisions that, some not so active as the others, but people do get out and they share their findings, and it's awesome. I'm always getting people to share things with me and ask me my thoughts, and they'll post photos and ask me questions, and and judging from the photo, I can only go by judging from the photo. So a lot of times when I take my photos of my evidence that I find, especially structures and formations, I try to take at least 3 different angle shots of it to let everybody see the best view of it, to try to see how I'm seeing it. But it's nothing like seeing something in person, because it's one thing to see something in photos, but it's totally different being there. So yeah.
Now your group is called basically the East Coast, which is up and down that ridge.
Right.
You wouldn't consider like going down into Georgia or Alabama or something like that, going as far on that ridge as possible. Are you considering that, or do you have a limit to the?
Well, no, there's not really a limit. I mean, because that's funny because I've actually been in contact with people down there, and I got people that want me to come down there, but as much as I want to get down there, I mean, because me, I mean, I have a regular steady job, and and plus being a single parent is not easy.
Right.
So, yeah, I have a lot to consider. So, I mean, if I could just up and go, but
you're still trying to build up basically a cooperative between, like, say, there's a small unknown group of 2 or 3 people down in Georgia who could contact you. They still, I mean, granted, you may not make it down there. You're still cooperating and sharing information.
Right, and I mean, there's other groups. They have their own groups, and which, like for example, and down in Southwest Virginia. My buddy Tracy Arnold, he's a ECBRO member, and he's also, one of our, he's a very well active member. Now, in his location, he has a group, it's called the New River Valley Bigfoot Organization, which he's actually considered a ECBRO branch or division. Now, in other areas in states, we have other locations such as, like I said, North Carolina. We have South Carolina division. Our North and South divisions, one's more active than the other. The other doesn't get out. It doesn't really get active like they used to. But so yeah, I'm actually still working on trying to establish active groups. And I'm not asking for big, large groups. I mean, it could be 2 or 3 people. That go out and do the research and look for evidence and stuff.
Like you said, you got that friend in Pennsylvania. And it's possible
right.
you might know somebody in, say, the woods in Maryland or West Virginia.
Yeah, I got people in Maryland. I've actually got people in Rhode Island that report back to me quite often, and I've actually had them report back to me about a lot of activity which sometimes if they're prevented and if they're not able to go out and research, I know of people nearby in other surrounding states that I make contact with that will and have gone out to investigate situations. What's the name? I forgot his name. He was actually one of the participants on the Bigfoot Bounty Show. Man, I can't think of his name. He's in Massachusetts. Well, actually Vermont, but he's anyway. But yeah, I contact him sometimes when I hear about things up there, and when he gets a chance, he'll go out and investigate. But yeah, in different areas, there's different areas, locations that people have. Most of the active people are more in the northern states that share a lot of stuff with me. But
so, explain to me the Discovery Project.
Well, the Discovery Project. See, the best way I think I could describe the Discovery Project. The best way I could describe that, it's basically, there's a few of us involved that are, it's not the whole organization. It's actually a close tight group of us that when we go out, we're trying to get more in depth in what we do and find the evidence. We actually make little projects within the project itself. Like for example, my researcher and friend Tracy Arnold, he has our drone. Well, actually, it's his drone, but he's been putting his drone to use and experimenting with that. So that's something that we're working on, getting that a little bit more active, especially during our night. Well, we have other projects related to the Discovery Project. It's our night projects and everything. Drone, that's where the drone comes in handy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got different projects to basically set, find proof and everything, and pretty much to bring to light the real truth. It's all about finding the truth. Basically that's what the whole ECBRO is about.
Right.
But,
so in other words, like the ECBRO is the umbrella.
Yeah.
And Discovery Project is your own intense focus.
Exactly. Because there's a lot of little details that we get into. Sometimes we have private podcast shows amongst ourselves, to have little discussions over, sometimes we keep in communication, in different various ways to go over our strategies and everything, and that, our plans and ideas that we want to try. And then there's a lot of little things I've been trying and experience with on my own, which, part of it involves with actually needing more specific equipment, but that'll come at a later time. But there's a few things that we don't discuss and share with certain people to discuss. There's a few things that, we do keep confidential with that. So as much as I want to go into other details and share information, it's kind of a hard thing to, get into. But yeah, a lot of it's about finding solid proof and evidence, and there's a lot of little, like I said, a lot of little details and projects involved, experimentations, and that we're working on. So, especially with our budget. So, is
Fred in the chat room?
Yeah.
Oh, he's still there. Okay, he was quiet.
Yeah. Fred, I'm gonna ask Lauren, who's being nice and quiet over there, to put some. I'm gonna send this to her, and she's gonna put it in the chat room. I have my own YouTube,
Okay.
And I've got an experimental piece of equipment that you will see me demonstrate. Let's see, copy. I'm going to put that over here. And Lauren, if you could paste that over to chat, and Fred can look at it. It's a camera that I use. I call it my Blob Squatch Eliminator.
Oh, okay.
It uses infrared, but in a very special way. And what I'm going to do also is friend you on Facebook, and then we can discuss it from there. But Fred, if Lauren gets that in the chat room.
Well, okay, I can see the link. I just can't. My computer won't pick it up. I'm trying to get it to go to your link now, and I'm doing it through the chat room. So.
Okay. If that doesn't work, I'm going to friend Dan anyway on Facebook.
Okay, well, just go ahead and friend Dan and Daniel, and Daniel will friend you and forward it to me, and I'll friend you, so we'll both be friends.
Right.
With you.
Of course. We're going to be friends. I'm feeling so much better about tonight.
More friends
now.
better.
You said
More
that,
friends better. Now, I don't know about being East Coast Bigfoot because I'm in Seattle, but...
oh, okay. West Coast.
I'll pass this technology on to you, and we can discuss it. You can get it yourself if you want, but it's a very advanced kind of situation, and very it has some very intense results. And you can look at it when I put it in your Facebook.
Hey, if you're interested, we can start the WCBRO, the West Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization.
West Coast, yeah, okay. We'll build
it doesn't have the same ring to it.
Oh, well, maybe, yeah.
I'm going to need at least $300 a pop for everybody joining me. That's the only situation.
I got you. Yeah, you guys are a little bit more high price out there on the West Coast. I can't afford you guys. Cost of living is a lot more expensive.
Real mountains. We got real mountains out here. I don't know about you people on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm sure you got like 10,000 high.
Yeah, y'all want to too.
I'm living in between 7 volcanoes right now.
Oh,
it's
wow.
an interesting place.
Yeah,
I'm in the perfect spot where they won't bother me, though.
Yeah, we have flooding. I can't talk crap.
Yeah.
Now, Laura, where are you located?
I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Lori, the one that initially contacted you, she's in East Texas, and Billy's in Texas as well.
Okay.
So.
Now, I heard you call her mom. You and Laura, you guys mother and daughter?
Yeah, that's my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, she's actually the one that got me into Bigfoot way back in the day. So I've been squatching since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
All right, that's pretty cool. It's a very interesting subject, that's for sure.
It is, and we all learn new stuff all the time.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I did have one more question, and I'm not sure if you already answered it if I missed it. Do you do any kind of calls or knocks or anything?
Actually, quite often I do. Now, when I'm out in my area, I'll do both knocks and calls. Now, I have not got responses from anything I've done in my area. However, in Fred's area, I've done calls. I have not got responses from calls, but I've done tree knocks on more than one occasion and got responses. I got tree knocks back, and these were late at night, and they were all coming from the same direction, same direction. So yeah, I have gotten responses back in Fred's area. Now, although you will hear sounds, you will hear vocalizations in my area, it's just I have not got responses from them. But I do tree knocks and I do calls. But
what kind of calls do you do?
I'll do like howls, different howls. A lot of times, most of my calls are long, extended whoops. So, because especially in my area, the whoops. I'll do them since that was a common sound that comes from out that area. Because like Fred will tell you, he heard those whoops just as loud and clear as I did. Like last year, sitting around camp, I know me, Cliff Stanley, Tracy Arnold. They've all heard the sounds I hear out there. You'll hear wails. You'll hear odd-sounding howls. There is a difference between the howls and stuff where you'll hear coyotes. Coyotes are very distinct. Owls are very distinct. I've heard quite a few owls, both in my area and Fred's area. Fred's area's got a lot of coyotes. You'll hear them in packs. But I've heard.
Now, one thing about howls that I try to tell people is that when they're out there in the middle of the woods, this is my only experience here, opinion. When they're out in the woods talking to each other with these howls, they've got an emotional content behind it. They're trying to say something.
Right.
And you can feel the difference between the different howls. You don't know exactly what they're saying, but you can feel the difference where there's possibly some frustration, or they're saying, "Where are you?" or something along those lines. One that I heard a while back, it sounded like a lone guy up on a hill by himself, and he's trying to find the others, and it sounded lonely when he was doing it. Some of the different howls. So when you howl yourself, they can tell the difference between what you're putting out and what they put out. A lot of people just put out a howl, and it's flat. It's emotionally flat. They're not saying anything when they put the howl out. So I try to tell people, well, get a thought in your head and do an emotional kind of projection with it. Sometimes Absolutely. Even just try to imagine yourself getting stabbed in the leg and then just scream.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But yeah, exactly. As far as I have done other various howls and stuff myself, and I like to say and believe that I have a pretty deep, voice box, which I could get it out there pretty good if I had to. But and as far as the sounds I've heard out there, the different howls and wails, I've heard. Well, just a year ago, I've heard the communication between one howl in one direction and a response in a different direction. From this like two different mountain point or two hill point, and you could tell that they weren't far off. One was communicating to the other, and these were not just howls. Try to imagine or picture, or try to put a howl with a wail mixed together. That was, without doubt that there weren't coyotes, because, I've heard several coyotes, and Fred knows coyotes all very well, and, there is a big difference, and especially if you study the different wildlife, you'll get familiar with their sounds and stuff. But
a couple of times when I've been out by myself, when I go hunting or something, I pull up in front of the apple orchard up on my research area one morning during bow season, and I got out and went around. As soon as I loaded my bow, this is what I heard whoop, 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 about not even 30 yards from me, and it sounded like I heard elephants running through the woods going back toward the field.
Guys? And
back in February of, I think 2 years ago, I had some boys from Maryland down here, and they tried to make a fool out of me. And I watched two of them come down and stop about 60 foot from the camp and let out three massive whoops. One went across the road, and the other one went right behind the camp because we had a big tarp around us because it was windy. And when it went by the camp, behind the camp, it took its hand and raked that guy right across the back, sitting in that chair, by giving him a heart attack. But I sit there and watch them. But I've heard whoops. I've been whooped at. I've been growled at. I've had rocks thrown at me. So if the way I see it, if you get too close to them like a family unit, they will let you know that you're getting too close. That's one thing I did find out about the ones in my area. But they're very, I mean, most of the time they're docile. They don't bother. They just follow. You know, Daniel went in to a place we called the picnic area, and he had something. We don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a bear or if it was a squash, but something big took off through the laurel bush when he hit the opening and everything. I've smelt vanilla here, which smelled like you walking into a kitchen and everything. So there's different things that they, you know, I had a lady named Jennifer Sandberg in my area one day, and I told her I should just kind of be quiet and just, you know, walk and just listen. And while I was sitting there trying to teach her, and she stopped and she said she could hear chattering. You could hear chattering. It was about 200 yards away from us. I knew they was following us, but she said she heard them talking, chattering. So the chattering, the way I understand it, from what I've heard, is they talk so fast it sounds like chatter. Now, the ones in my area understand ancient Cherokee dialect, like Ushka or Dode Tishidowa Oshigwatsu. You know, they understand stuff like that. And when I go in or when I leave, I'll say ehina, which means thank you, and I'll get a knock or a rock thrown at me or something, or I get a whoop. They'll acknowledge that you know, that, hey, we know you're here, you know, something like that. You know, so as far as the language goes, I guess in Virginia or certain parts of Virginia, like down toward the beach area, we got the Pamukis, and then we got on the lower part of Virginia or up in Massachusetts and Daniel's area. What's the name of your tribe, Daniel? It's your
the Mi'kmaq Indians.
Yeah, Mi'kmaq Indians, you know. But each state with a different Indian tribe, I believe that they understand the language from that area. Like a guy, I think it was out in the mountains about 10 years ago, he recorded, he was back in the mountains, and he was a Bigfoot researcher, but he left his audio equipment outside one night, and he picked up what he understood was ancient Spanish. And this guy knew or was studying Old Spanish language, which means the language ain't been spoken in 1,000 years. And he understood one Squatch saying, talking, you know, gibbering or whatever to the other one, and the way it sounded to him was, son, this is a story from the heart. You know, but it was in, the way he understood it was in ancient Spanish. So I believe in each section or whatever, there are certain Indian tribes that these Squatches are known to understand the language.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to have to cut this off. We actually ran out of time, and now we're in recording overtime recording. So we're just going to have to cut this. I mean, it's just fascinating, and I'm enjoying the hell out of this.
Oh yeah,
Lauren, go ahead.
It's always exciting.
Thank you so much for coming on, Daniel. You've been a really great guest, and thank you for calling in.
Absolutely. I had fun with it.
Yeah, we would love to have you back sometime.
Absolutely. Perhaps maybe we could discuss, sometimes I like to get you guys all on a podcast. I plan on having a future podcast, especially after our expedition. So if you guys are able to do live video podcast shows, I'd like to get you all involved with that if you guys like to join in and participate. So
definitely. Thank you. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you again for coming, and we are going to go ahead and call it a night. We will be back next Thursday, same time, same back channel.
All right.
Okay, and everyone, if you haven't already, go like us on Facebook so that you can see all the news on the upcoming guests and what's going on with the host. So,
awesome.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too now. All right.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Everybody say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Later.
everybody.
Okay, bye-bye. I'm going to call you, Daniel.